Namaste and welcome. I am Pratim Ranjan Bose and you are listening to my podcast Perspective. In this episode, I will share my views on the economic significance of the proposed India Middle East Europe Corridor or IMEC. Together with the proposed Multilateral Development Bank reforms, IMEC offers a better alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative or BRI that had pushed many countries around the world on the brink of bankruptcy. As you may remember, building an early consensus on strengthening multilateral development banks or MDBs and launching an alternative model for transnational intercontinental infrastructure creation through the proposed India Middle East Europe corridor were two major takeaways of the G20 summit in India. Together, the two initiatives may address part of the reasons behind the worldwide debt crisis and may create a framework to bail out debt-ridden nations. Both will bring major strategic benefits to India vis-à-vis China. MDB reform is part of the Delhi Declaration. It would be the task of the next G20 host country, Brazil, to implement the recommendations into action. According to available estimates, nearly 60% of the low-income countries are either in debt distress or at high risk. A December 2019 World Bank report titled Global Wave of Debts put it as the largest, fastest, and the most broad-based debt surge in 5 decades. Undeniably, the situation has become only worse after the COVID. The infrastructure rush in emerging economies over the last 2 decades, inadequate safe financing options, and China's debt trap diplomacy through BRI are major reasons behind this mess. If rightly developed, infrastructure brings tremendous indirect benefits to the economy. However, long gestation and low direct returns make it unsuitable for regular private finance. Low-cost MDB finance played a lead role in the reconstruction of the war-ravaged Europe and helped infrastructure building in the global south in the early phase of development. As the pace and size of infrastructure building increased, MDB finance fell short of the requirement. The matured debt market helped the developed world to attract investment from pension funds and mitigate the gap. India is resolving these issues by introducing infrastructure investment trusts or InvIT and reviving development finance. However, smaller economies like Bangladesh or Kenya with weak financial infrastructure fell for easy Chinese finance. China offered an unprecedented amount of loans to smaller economies under the Belt and Road Initiative. Countries borrowed way beyond their means. The infrastructure thus developed is often inexplicably costly or white elephants, like the railroad to nowhere in Kenya. When nations became debt-strapped, Beijing demanded a piece of the Maldives or Sri Lanka, which was mortgaged against loans for strategic use. The MDB reform can address part of the problem by channeling fresh finance to the developing world. However, it is the collaborative finance model of IMEC which may show the world an escape route from China's neo-colonialism and may set up bigger and better trade links than promised by BRI. India, Iran and Russia have already created the International North-South Transport Corridor or INSTC through the collaborative model where participating countries pooled resources. IMEC is a bigger proposition. Apart from rail and shipping options, IMEC has provision for transnational electricity grid and gas and hydrogen pipeline connectivity options. India, Saudi Arabia, European Union, United Arab Emirates, France, Germany, Italy, and the US have entered an MOU on the sidelines of the G20 summit to create the corridor. The possibility for success is high as IMEC banks on India's thriving bilateral relations with Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Israel to get the project through. Like its success in bringing Russia and the US to a consensus at G20, India may also help IMEC connect with INSTC. It would help trade in the vast region between the Caspian and the Mediterranean seas. Interestingly, both IMEC and INSTC are alternative intercontinental connectivity options avoiding the congested Suez Canal. The congestion makes journey through the Suez time consuming and hence costly. Israel should play a critical role in IMEC by offering a quick sea transport option to Greece. The recent conflict between Israel and Hamas is unlikely to jeopardize the long-term potential of the project. India's Adani Group has already taken over Haifa port in Israel. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid a visit to Greece just before the G20 summit. In terms of its route plan, IMEC would connect South Asia with Middle East and Europe. However, a closer look will reveal IMEC may also offer new connectivity options to the debt-ridden Africa without much extra cost. Investment in infrastructure is non-negotiable. While that would push demand for funds upwards, there are definite constraints on the supply side. The economic doldrums in China and Europe and the dramatic rise in defense expenditure worldwide as a direct fallout of the geopolitical tension would limit fund flow to poorer nations. Clearly, the days of easy money are over. That calls for both judicious spending and lending. MDB reforms may solve part of the problem. The rest should be mitigated through pooled resources. Thank you for listening to Perspective. If you like this episode, please share and subscribe. See you next week. फिर मिलेंगे.